Yeah, top draw. I think we spoke quite a bit about the last game, that the areas we got wrong, or maybe weren't quite didn't quite hit the mark on. And I think a big part of that was our death bowling. And I thought Josh was exceptional there. His plans were very clear and he executed beautifully. And then Bev, he's a very, very clean ball striker. We know we see him in the nets training very hard, and he hits the ball a long way. So it was cool for him to get himself in, and then cool to see a bit of power at the end there. Yeah, we made it hard for ourselves. 𝗂𝗃 bowled beautifully at the top. But I think you want to test yourselves. If we chase that 1 or 2 down, you don't get to learn too much, and you're not under too much pressure. So it was nice to get the win that way, and see those 2 guys through the middle navigate obviously a pretty tough period. Yeah, I think it was. We spoke about it at the toss before the rain sort of came. We were going to have a bat first, but then with a bit of weather, we were like, we'll probably look to bowl just because it is a little bit nigglier, and that's how it played out. So it's always tough when you come off and then you lose 5 overs, because you probably would have gone a little bit harder had you known it had been 15 over game. So that was sort of the reasoning behind what we did at the toss, and lucky for us that that's sort of worked in our favour.
অপটিক্যাল ব্রাইটার ফটো ক্যাটালিস্ট অ্যাক্টিভ গ্র্যানিউল সমৃদ্ধ বসুন্ধরা পাওয়ার ওয়াশ ঝলমলে কাপড়ে ফুরফুরে মন।
We know his class. He's been bowling well all series. He's definitely been the pick of their bowlers. He's been consistent throughout the five games we've played. I definitely felt when I came out that it was the back end of his over, and I just thought I'll absorb these balls and look to finish out his over and try not to take too many risks. It's always tough when you've only got 3 overs. They used all 3 up front. They were looking to take wickets. But yeah, he's a world-class bowler, and he definitely bowled very well throughout the whole tour. Yeah, I think it's been spoken about a bit. We've had a lot of top players not here, in the IPL or the PSL, so it gave a lot of fringe guys an opportunity. And I think the best part about touring overseas is learning quickly about the different conditions, and I think we did that. Throughout the one-day series. I know we lost the series, but there were some great performances from everyone across the board, and we learned a lot. And then I think in the T20s, we only played 2 games, but for a large part of that first game, I thought we were well on top, and then Bangladesh did a really, really great job to win that game, and then to finish the series here, I think especially the way we bowled. It felt like a unit that had been here for 3 weeks, and we'd learnt a lot, and we just put it out on the park today, which was very nice. Yeah, it was awesome. It was very loud. They're very passionate. They love this team, as you can tell by the noise. I thought the rain might have scared them away a little bit, but they all came back when it dried up. But yeah, the people of Bangladesh are amazing. We've loved the time here. They've been very accommodating. And yeah, it was just a great way to finish in front of, like you said, almost a full house. Sorry to spoil their party, but we won the game. But you can tell they just love cricket, so I hope they were entertained. Yeah, it's great. I think it puts a bit of pressure on the guys who are previously in the team. They're there for a reason, but I think it also just builds great depth. There's going to be times when those guys are unavailable again through injury or for whatever reason, and then when the guys who come in and play these types of tours, they've got the confidence that they've done it before. So names like you said, 𝗂𝗃𝗄𝗃 obviously had a great tour with the bat and with the ball. Will O'Rourke with the one-days obviously coming back from injury. There's some great signs there. And Jaden, every time he's bowled, with the black cap jersey on, he's been very impressive. So those guys can get on the plane tonight pretty happy. Yeah, I think this time of year especially, with those 2 big tournaments on that I spoke about before, there's always going to be guys who are, given the freedom to go and play in those leagues, which I think is great. Like I said, it just builds depth. Like you said, it was a shame to lose Tom, but it gave me an opportunity to go out there and lead my country, which was, a massive honour. So, it was, like you said, it is a little bit of a, niggly situation managing those guys in and out, and but yeah, like I said before, it's just great to give younger guys or more inexperienced guys opportunities to play international cricket. Yeah, obviously 2 very different bowling attacks. Both with class across the board, and I think it was it was actually quite difficult because you just get used to one unit, and then after 3 games, they bring the changes, and there's almost a complete new bowling attack. Which it's what you want to experience. You want to experience different players. And I think all the bowlers that they used throughout the series were were class and challenged us in different ways. Yeah, I've loved it. I think when I got on the plane to come over here, it was definitely not something I'd even thought about at all. Obviously a shame for Tom. He sort of hung around and it was a day-by-day thing, hoping that maybe the foot would get a little bit better, but unfortunately it didn't. But yeah, to get the chance to lead my country in 2 T20Is was a massive honour. I may never get to do it again, so I'm just trying to soak it up and really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it's just taking opportunities on tours like this. Like you said, the opportunities could be few and far between, but the only thing you can do really is keep performing domestically, and then when you do get your chance internationally, you've got to take it, because those opportunities might be small. As we spoke about before, there's a few guys here who put their hand up, and when there is a next tour and there might only be a couple of spots available, I think all you can do is, when you do get a shot, is score runs and take wickets. And I think there's been a couple of guys who've done that. Yeah, I think it has. I think if you look back to the one-day series, the way Bangladesh fielded was, I thought they outfielded us. They've obviously done a lot of work, and yeah, they saved a lot of runs throughout the fielding innings, and took some unbelievable catches, which can change games. And I think in the T20 series we saw that there were some key partnerships being built across both teams, and then it might be a special catch here or a run out there that changes the game. So I think obviously fielding is just as important as the other two.
For more updates, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Download 𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗃 app to enjoy exciting games and highlights. Visit 𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗃.com.